Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365. Show 1 of year 4 of Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. And we special requested a guy who's been on the show a couple times, like a couple dozen times. We're getting close to a couple hundred times, as a matter of fact. Our buddy Chris Franklin from NJ.com, who comes to us from where today?
The home office. Because, I thought about, I was like, you know what? I could stand outside. But there's also I heard a trash. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. No, I'm out. See ya.
How cold is it out? I haven't been out in a couple hours.
It's 43. I just checked. It's pretty chilly.
If it's under 50, we're cutting you slack.
Yeah, it's bad for your.
I did my outside thing already. I did my outside tour
weather. Chris is a big WrestleMania guy. He's going to be involved. The Rock took a shot at the Eagles, Chris. Big shot. Nice shot at Jalen Hurts. He was late. There were some awful traffic problems. I was talking before the show for local people, especially in South Jersey. I don't know if that's why Rock was late, but there were traffic jams all over the place. But he ended up being late, and he asked the Eagles fans. He warned them. He said, "You really want to know why?" And he was setting them up. And he said he was watching YouTube videos of Jalen Hurts losing the playoffs. What a heel! What a heel! Chris,
he knows how. He's a good heel. He knows how to get under their skin and to do that. I saw the clip is on the news list. I was like, yeah, he knows how to get a reaction. That was a pretty good reaction to get, especially in Philly. So yeah, hats off. That's why he's one of the best that's in there. But it's too soon.
I hate to hear that from the final boss because he's flexing his muscles in many different ways these days. All right, here's a muscle flexing question for you. The pec issue that Avonte Maddox had last year. We all like Avonte Maddox. We think he's a very good player. He's supposedly a good dude, too. You guys are in the locker room. You get to talk to him, so you know whether he's not. And you like to see those kind of guys on the team if they can get out there on the field and help the Eagles win football games. Avonte Maddox has had a big problem with that the last 2 years, getting on the field and helping him win football games. I assume they're going to get him for a very inexpensive deal compared to what starting slot corners making these days, compared to what he was scheduled to make before they released him these days. But can you even go there? Can you put eggs in Avonte Maddox's basket? It's pretty damn shaky to begin with. I get it. If it's not that big a salary cap, at least financially, you don't sweat it. But how much you're putting into the player, how much belief you have in the player, how much time you're dedicating to practicing with the player. Should they even go there with Avonte Maddox?
I think you should, for basically because his ability not only just to play the slot, but in case I know Sidney Brown says he'll be ready to go by week 1. At least you have somebody who's experienced to play safety. So I think that's a big thing in there too. I also think you don't make this move unless you think you have the depth enough to survive another Avonte Maddox injury. Because I think even though we saw Ricks, Eli Ricks was very young in there. We saw the cavalcade of people that was going through there.
It was a cavalcade too, Chris. It was a revolving door.
Or that Bugs Bunny line when they're going around the home plate and everything else. It just seemed like, slot corner, another slot corner. Yeah, it's one of those things. So I think overall, if they did, I don't think they make this move unless they trusted the depth and they have that as well too. And I think when he's healthy, he not only is one of the better slot corners, I think he helps you out in the run and in the outside run as well too. And you can blitz him. You can use him in so many different ways. So it's worth the risk, I think, especially if it's cost effective, very cheap deal for that.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I thought somebody would swoop him up. I know he visited the Saints. Obviously, it didn't work out. He didn't. That injury history limited his market. So why not bring him back on a cost-effective deal? I think it was a smart move by the Eagles and Howie Roseman, but I think they learned from last year they got to have the contingencies in place, and they will. Isaiah Rodgers might be involved if he ever gets unsuspended. They signed that kid from Las Vegas, Tyler Hall, who's a natural slot corner. And Zach McPherson will be back. Don't forget about Zach coming off the torn Achilles. And Zach keeps himself in great shape, so he's not a guy I kind of worry about that he'll rehab from. And he's still very young, so he should be 100% because he injured it so early in the preseason. He should be ready to go. So they have much better contingencies, and if lightning strikes and he stays healthy, you got a great slot corner. I love it. And what I love even more, Chris Franklin, is Jordan Mailata. I know it's hard for people to look at a 3-year, $66 million extension. Boy, that's a good deal for the Eagles. I mean, if he would have waited and he would have pressed the issue and continued to play at the level that he's playing at, I don't even know what the number would be. Might be up 28, 30 million a year by that point. He's got 2 more years left on this deal.
Yeah,
Eagles are getting them done that early at this number. Boy, Jordan's a good dude.
yeah, and when you look at the way the cap keeps increasing and these guys keep getting paid more and more, if you did this like 2 years from now, good luck. Because like, it probably would have been in that 30 range. He's played that well. And I like the fact that now not only do you have Jordan signed through this long-term deal, you got Landon Dickerson signed that with as well, too. So you know that left side is going to be there. And that left side for the Eagles have been very effective. You know, averaging 5 yards of carry on that side, running towards that side of the field between those two guys, those road graders on there. And when you look at his story, you look at how he was basically a neophyte when it comes to playing that position, not really knowing that, to be all of a sudden being left on an island a lot of times and still stonewalling some of these edge rushers. He's done a really good job. And probably one of those things where we look like in 4 years now, like, wow, that was a pretty good value they got from him in that part. And now I think the thing is now, and I remember this line from Howie from the annual league meetings when he's talked about when he sees these extensions, some of these guys that you see these extensions going to, they're going to have to be vocal leaders. And this, when you look at Landon, you look at Jordan, those are two guys who were, as this offseason goes on, they were mentioned a lot as potential vocal leaders to replace Kelsey and Cox. So that tells the faith they have in him to potentially fill that role as well too.
Will the new offensive coordinator be smart enough, unlike the old offensive coordinator, and run behind the left side of that offense? Because the Eagles didn't do near enough of it last year. They've kind of made a statement with the money that they've given their left tackle and their left guard. Will Mr. Moore be smart enough to go, yeah, let's run left more than they did last year under Brian Jones?
I think you'll see balance overall. I don't think they'll shy away from that. I think when push comes to shove, it's 3rd and 3. Yeah, I'm going to the left side. Yeah, for sure. Oh, and I'll put Dallas Goedert in at tight end and say, okay, all 3 of you guys get me those 3 yards. But I think you'll see a lot more balance as well too. Maybe that one too. I still don't pin everything on Brian Johnson for last year. It's still, could he done better? Yeah, I still don't pin all that on him. But yeah.
By the way, you still got Lane Johnson on the right side.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's that question mark at right guard. Who's going to play there? Whether it's Tyler Steen, whether it's somebody they draft. It's conversations.
I saw Lane yesterday. Lane was working out with Seth Rollins yesterday. God, Lane is just he is a big dude, man.
Big, athletic, and trained right as well too, man. It's come a long way. Like, Lane's carved himself out a really good career over his past time because, I mean, we all know what happened early in the career and the question marks again there. He's buckled down. You know, he had that long sackless streak, and you look at the thing, and you got to start wondering, you know, he gets a couple more years of this, gets maybe an all-pro or two. Do you start putting him in also Hall of Fame consideration? You're at that point now.
Yeah, I think he's already there. Lane Johnson is. I don't know if the Hall of Fame. We get to talk to him a lot on this show. We talk to a bunch of them, but I think Lane is a Hall of Fame player. I don't know if it's going to translate because right tackle, left tackle thing, but boy, you talk about dominance at his position.
Yeah.
You mentioned the sackless streak. That's ridiculous in this era where there's so many good pass rushers.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I too see him as a Hall of Famer, but let me ask you guys this. Projecting for this year, who do you think will be a better run blocking tackle? Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson?
Ooh.
That's a good problem to have, Jody.
Yeah, it is. I'm
going to say Lane. I mean, nothing against Jordan, but I mean, Lane's just.
So they both can go out in space. I like the way that Lane kick. Lane still gets a good kick on there, and so, yeah, I'll go Lane because it's close though. It's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's Mailata.
It is getting closer and closer.
Pass blocking, Lane is. He has no peers. He is just so much better than anybody else. It's not even worth discussing, and that includes Trent Williams on the other side, where we always hear, left is so much more important because it's the quarterback backside. I get that, but guys come off the end. They move guys. Forever, you put your best pass rusher on that side. Now they bring him over to the other side so you don't have to go against the best tackle the team has. Oh, by the way, now you're going into Lane Johnson's face if you're an Eagle opponent. That's not too advisable. That's why pass rushing, Lane is certainly the better. I think Mailata's a better run blocker.
For what it's worth, PFF had Jordan ahead of Lane in both last season. And I do think
in front in run pass blocking too.
Yeah.
Wow, that surprises me.
Yeah. Well, they had Jordan as the third best tackle in football. And by the way, Jordan Mailata, third in 2021, ninth in 2022, third in 2023. That's the heights that he's
gets you
at.
22 million per.
Should get you more. Should get you more. When people, this is draft time, right, Chris? We haven't talked about it a lot today because we had Jordan's extension, Abante coming back, but yeah, and you always hear this guy's raw, this guy's raw, this guy's raw, and then I look at Jordan and I chuckle. The Davion Taylors of the world are not raw compared to what Jordan Mailata. So you've been here the entire time. I think people have started to forget just how crazy this is, where this guy's come from. He couldn't put on his helmet when he first got here. He needed help.
I still remember 2020. I really thought he was getting cut. Like that last pass, he versus Osman with that last rep, and Osman beat him pretty good. And when he took the helmet off and slammed it down, like when that was Jordan Mailata took the helmet off and slammed it down, I was like, oh, no, he's getting cut. He's getting cut, and they stuck with him. And then the following year, he beat out Diller. You saw what he's done from there on out. I really thought he was done for. I really did. And see the way he's playing now, it's crazy. The fact they stuck with him and they saw something, they saw that potential, and it's come to fruition now.
And that's where you have to give both Stoutland certainly, but Howie as well. If they expose him, does he get picked up? Can they get him back to practice squad? I don't know. They didn't even take that chance. They made a judgment call that we're not going to risk this because we see gold in the big sloppy mess that is the raw Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, I admit I had him cutting Mailata and putting him on the practice squad as a rookie. And they were worried about losing him. So they did deserve credit for that. I remember, 2020, Chris, you probably remember. Injuries, and Jordan is set to start his first game against the San Francisco 49ers and Nick Bosa. Obviously, they're going to move him to that side, and I think the whole building was panicked. Now it was that was the COVID area. I remember for some reason we got to talk to Stoutland at that time. I don't know how it worked out that way. You remember we asked him, is he ready? And he basically said, I don't know.
I'm trying to, I don't know. I need to see him what he does on the field. I think he is. I hope he is.
Yeah.
I can see.
He said, I hope he is. But I don't know. And there were a couple bad plays, but man, he held up. It's an amazing story. Ross Tucker, our buddy, because he was spiking the football, and he should. And after his third game, he said, Mailata is going to be an all-pro. There were some hiccups. You mentioned some of them, Chris. It wasn't like that after, but it is one of the great developmental stories in NFL history. That's not an understatement. In NFL history.
And I was talking to somebody from the IPP a couple of years ago, who like one of the main scouts from there. He was going to be on the league, somebody's practice squad, and that's why the Eagles had to pick him out, because he was going to go. He was either to the Ravens or one of the AFC North teams. He was going to go there, and the Eagles decided to take a risk and select him. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good risk, especially for a seventh rounder. And I think there's I think there's another guy that sounded like it could be like them if they wanted to try to do him down there in the Dominican Republic. So they were Matos.
And they traded up, by the way, like 14 spots. You rarely see a trade up in the seventh round. The Eagles traded up in the seventh round to get him.
Yeah, he was that
so
good.
They saw something. I remember how we told the story where I think Stoutland was on a golf vacation, and he said, you got to come look at this kid.
Yep.
And it was down at what is the great high school where they had
IMG Academy.
IMG, yeah.
Yeah.
They had the International Pathway Player Program. And Howie said, you got to take a look at this kid. And Stoutland went down and ruined his golf game, and the rest is history. Yeah. Great story. Great story.
Memories.
All right, brother. Here's a for 2024 story / question for you. John has told me on several occasions that in the new Vic Fangio defense, he might use edge pass rushers even more dropping in coverage than did Matt Patricia, who did it an inordinate amount of times in his short time as defense coordinator. And let me see if I can term it correctly. Abject failure using the defensive ends in pass coverage. If that's going to be the case, Bryce Huff in pass coverage, how is that going to play? Or do you think Vic says, yeah, even though it's the way that I usually do things, I'm just going to let this guy hunt sacks? Because apparently hunting sacks, not something you want from your defensive ends, as per Jeff McClain this week with Hassan Reddick. So I'm just wondering, how is Bryce Huff going to be allowed to hunt sacks, or will he be dropped back in coverage to the level that Hassan Reddick was?
I think it's one of those things where I think it's going to be tailored to the player, each player, and I think that it'll be once in a while. I'm not going to think you're going to see him like 10 times a game going back there into the flat or curl hook area. But I think it'll be a couple a couple packages, like looking at some of his like 2018, 2021 stuff, like those books and stuff like that for it. It's there, but it's not that much. I mean, I'm surprised Gannon had it in his book, but he didn't use it that much. It's one of those things. It depends on a lot of things. And I look at Huff and I'm thinking, like, you know what? Do I feel comfortable enough for him to string it out and do it once to set up like an overload on the other side? Yeah, I think that's fine. But yeah, Van, for that one, I wouldn't be surprised if they use more like Oren Burke a little bit more. Or like I think Zach Vaughn, I'm sorry, excuse me, Zach Vaughn a little bit more in that type of situation because you got a guy who's played off the ball linebacker. But so I think overall, I think Huff is just going to say, you know what? See the quarterback, keep contained. Don't let him get outside you. Keep your arm outside arm free. But that's what it's go after the quarterback and keep that bullseye on there.
By the way, I rarely defend Matt Patricia, but I have to defend him for one instance. Boy, how much he dropped Hassan Reddick in coverage was crazy. I mean, here are the numbers. The one game, Arizona, he dropped him 7 times, which was an outlier. He dropped him 3 times against Seattle, 3 times against the Giants, twice against the Giants. They played the Giants twice. This nonsense but Vic is going to do it a little bit more, because he likes that quarter flat defender look. But that's probably Nolan Smith's job more than I would think, or Zach Vaughn, Mr. Andrew Van Ginkel.
So then why do you think Patricia used Hassan Reddick to do that if he had others that he?
Well, that is a legitimate criticism, but I think that there's a narrative out there that was dropping in the covers like multiple times. I mean, Desai dropped him. Here's Desai. I give you, he dropped him in the coverage 4 times against Minnesota, against Kansas City, against Buffalo. And that was his season high until that Arizona game. Matt wasn't out of whack compared to what Sean was doing. I think Vic will increase those numbers a little bit by his history. So people didn't like it before. They're definitely not going to like it now unless Nolan Smith, Zach Vaughn can do it. Then they'll be fine with it. And we shall see. I'm not in love with that scheme.
I'm not a fan of that because I like, to me, if you want to do it once to set up like a zone blitz or something like that and to give them a different look so it comes out of nowhere, I get it. It's fine. 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
7 times, yeah. I don't know what he was doing. He was throwing the Arizona game. I don't know what he was doing in the Arizona. Maybe he's trying to help out Gannon. I don't know.
Here's your chance to get redemption. Here you go. Be a better pick. Wait, what?
So the $15 million man who they had last year, who on average, John, you give it the outlier the 7 times. About 3 or 4 times a game is what you're telling me between Desai and Patricia?
Yeah, 48 times over 18 games, because that includes the playoffs. So 48 times over 18 games.
So will he drop Bryce Hupp 48 times in 18 games? That's my question, is what it comes down to.
Hopefully they get to the 18th game. Will he drop? That's a good question. Will he drop Bryce Hupp 48 times over 18 games? Maybe.
See, I just don't get, especially when I don't like, especially from that left side where most quarterbacks are right-handed. I want to get that quarterback thinking a little bit too much. I want him looking like, oh, I gotta look over the corner, or I see directly in that sight line going, I gotta get ready. If I see the edge rusher going back and dropping out, I know somebody's going to come from some other way, but I don't want to like once you. Oh, I have time. I don't have to. I feel okay, and then throw it that way too. Especially from the view side part of the quarterback. I don't want to drop him back as much. That's what Reddick was, and that's what Alf projects to be as well too. I just don't like that philosophy of that at all.
I don't like it either, to be honest. But if you do have a Van Ginkel like player who can do it, I think it's fine. But I think more coaches need to go, all right, if I don't have that type of player, I got to put this in the back pocket until I get that type of player.
Right.
And I think Bick is smart enough to do that, but we'll see. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. But his reputation is what it is, and he's got to be better than Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. That's my theory.
All right. One last Franklin point before we let you run. And again, appreciate all the people streaming here every single day and watch Birds 365. And most of you, not all, most of you get my attempt at cynicism from time to time. How pissed off will Chris Franklin be when, this is a hypothetical, another thing you got to know about this show, Jody Mack loves hypotheticals. When the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Philadelphia Eagles in this year's Super Bowl, led by none other than Carson Wentz off the bench, the reason why Carson Wentz is a Kansas City Chief today more than anything else, Chris Franklin, is what? Who should be held accountable for Carson Wentz being a Kansas City Chief?
Carson Wentz.
No.
Carson Wentz.
No.
He was the one. If he decided to not play hero ball at times, especially when it was late,
No. Why is Carson Wentz a Kansas City Chief today?
Andy Reid, reclamation projects. There's so many ways to go out.
No.
Andy Reid seen a redemption.
Carson's quote yesterday.
No, I didn't know, and
okay,
I will
tell you. I will enlighten you. He is a Kansas City Chief because of Nick Foles. Nick Foles told him the year that he spent in Kansas City working with Andy, working with that coaching staff, helped make him the quarterback that won the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. So when Carson Wentz beats Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl this year, the Eagle fans have to blame Nick Foles. They must boo Nick Foles. They must cease buying Nick Foles beers and drinks and dinners in this town, because he would have been the one accountable for the Eagles losing the Super Bowl to Carson Wentz. I rest my case.
I look at it a different route. I say we know what happened. Nick was there and all of a sudden came out to Philly.
I'm just glad that Nick and Carson are talking. Carson doesn't like to talk to.
They must be boys.
Yeah.
He's taking Foles' advice. It's Carson Wentz. Yeah, go, Andy's great.
No, Carson and
Carson, best position you could have.
Carson and Nick were actually very close because they're part of the God Squad together. So very religious. They were actually very close.
I think I'd be really mad because if I know if that scenario ever happened, I must be really, really sick and in a fever dream and about ready to be puking up my guts out. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Huh? Carson Wentz is leading the Chiefs. All
right, I got to sneak one last one in for you at C Franklin News, NJ.com. Make sure you listen. He'll be down talking to Jordan Mailata at some point today, I believe. The draft, we haven't talked about the draft because other stuff going on, but I don't even want a player. Give me a position. If they're forced to stay at 22, what's Howie doing?
You like eating your vegetables?
I do, and I agree with you. I know where you're going.
Yep, and it's going to be one of those things like another offensive lineman again. Well, yeah, I think that's where you get the most value at if they stay at 22. And I'm looking at a guy if the Steelers or Dolphins, who all have some offensive line needs, they don't take Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton, that's where I think he goes. I I think one of those two guys go to the Eagles in that spot. I mean, both guys are coming for top 30 visits as well too, like to visit the Eagles. They give you. Personally, I also like Troy Fontenot a little bit too to play guard just until they bump him out. But both of them, you can go ahead and teach them how to play guard. Let them go against Tyler Steen, have a competition, and then maybe you have a right guard from their future. But I think 2 or 3 years, especially having that 5th-year option where you can use him a little bit, especially he's learning behind there. You still got Lane on the roster. You don't have to worry about, oh, we have to throw him in there now in the 4th year to see what we have. No, you got the extra year in case you need to use it. So I look at it. I think offensive line is the way they go there with edge rusher, maybe a close second. But yeah, the Cooper DeJean stuff, nah, just don't see
I
it.
think the Avonte Maddox signing might have been just enough. I think it was like this close, back and forth between quarterback, offensive line, quarterback. That might just tip it enough to make it an offensive line pick. And of course, it all depends on who's available. We have no idea who the first 21 picks are going to be. That will have more of an effect on who they're going to take at 22 than anything we can say well in advance. I like hypotheticals, but then at some point you got to jump back into reality, and we'll have the reality of the first 21 guys off the board when we get there.
Chris is a wrestling guy. Cody Rhodes finishes the story. Yes or no, Chris Franklin?
Yes, and switches to heel.
No, no shot.
Next Monday night.
That's worse than me making Nick Foles a heel. No
shot.
No chance Cody's a heel.
I think you see a double flip. I think on the Monday Night Raw after Mania, I think we see a double flip.
I'd like it. I didn't think about it because I'm disappointed. Double flip.
Cody going heel. What's the other half?
Roman and the Rock going. I think the Rock goes face. I think.
You think Rock's going face?
Cody goes that, and I think Roman says his goodbyes and he fades off into the Hollywood light.
Who?
Roman Reigns.
Reigns is going Hollywood. You think?
I think he was going to take a long extended break, one of those two, but I think
I think long term, I think he's going Hollywood. Now they've all, Rock, John Cena, Dave Bautista doesn't get enough credit. He's a big star.
I hear another John Cena commercial voiceover.
John Cena is all over the place. John will be there, I assume. It's going to be fun. I wish you were going to be there. You're not going. I was going to hang out with you.
Here's my prediction, and I may run afoul of it at least on Friday night. I don't know about the legal ramifications. Brock Lesnar comes out and helps Cody Rhodes against the rules.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Legal ramifications.
Yeah,
he's got to be able to get.
I'd love to see Brock back, but I don't think. I think he'll eventually be back, but it's.
Somebody told me they're using him in at least certain promos that they had removed him from.
That's something with the video game, but I don't pay attention.
You think it's video game related?
Yeah, I've heard. I'm not sure. All
right. When you see Lesnar on Friday night, say, "Hey, shoot, Jody Mack had that one."
When I see Lesnar,
that's got a better chance of happening than Cody heel turn. That ain't happening. No friggin' way. Not a chance. Not a
maybe I could
double flip.
I could maybe stomach Cody Rhodes as a heel because I can't stomach him as a baby face. He is insufferable. Insufferable.
He is. I really think you're going to see it. And then come back. I'm going to sit back and just go, you know what? I should write for WWE. And then I'll be back like 2 days later going, your ideas are horrible. Get out. All right, cool. I'll be back next time.
At least you won't have to hear you're fired by Vince. That's not happening anytime soon. Christopher Franklin, thank you very much for hopping on board. Thank you for the many appearances you've made on Birds 365. We plan on having you on if you'll continue to come on with us.
I appreciate you guys even having me a shot there. Happy anniversary, you guys. You guys do a great job as always, and keep up the good work. Here's for 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years.
Yeah, and Cody will still be a babyface that old. Chris Franklin, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Have a good one now.
See Frank here with us from NJ.com, here with us on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout. Come back. We're going to put on the bow on the show of show 1 of year 4 here on Birds 365.